This is the laws of demolishing. Soser, page 213. We have a special appearance of Max Hertzfeld. So you have Opapa on the Zoom, and Max in person, and me over here. And that's the Chut HaMeshulash, Loba Mehira Yinasik. The three-bound cord will not easily be severed. Okay, so Max, you read for us, page all about Soser, demolishing.
Soser.
Yeah, so yesterday we discussed about Bona, building. So building, and today we're talking about you can't build, but you're also now how to destroy. So what is this Av Malacha?
The objective of this Av Malacha is to demolish or break down any permanent structure, whether made of wood, stone, brick, mortar, or other materials, for a constructive purpose. Activities prohibited within this Malacha include undoing any of the operations indicated in the previous Malacha of building.
Because you're not allowed to break something, you're not allowed to tear it down. If you would be liable for building it, you're prohibited to tear it down. Okay, so basically it's just repeating. Okay, go to number 3.
Whatever activity is considered a biblical or a rabbinic transgression of the malacha of building, similarly constitutes a biblical or a rabbinic transgression of the malacha of demolishing, when it involves the demolition of something that was constructed or in doing any of the operations that comprise the malacha of building.
Okay, so let's look at the footnote here, because this is always a big question. Can you open a locked door? If the key to the door of the house is lost, you're not allowed to remove the door hinges or to break the lock. You may, however, open the lock with a knife or pin. Okay, unless it's dangerous. Okay, fine. Now we're on page 214, Asher. Okay, keep going, Max.
Chazal also prohibited dismantling a temporary tent and closing a folding portion which may not be erected or set up on Shabbos. You are allowed to remove and replace the covers or side panels of boxes and vessels if they are so constructed that they are normally opened and closed in this manner.
Okay, let's see. Opening or closing the roof or covering over a sukkah. When the sukkah is made with a roof that's attached and opens and closes on hinges, like a shlach, I think they call it, you're permitted to open and close the roof on Shabbos and Yom Tov. You're also permitted to cover the sukkah with a plastic covering in order to protect it from the rain. Okay, there's a whole way to do that. We discussed this already. The last law is very, it's often overlooked. So let's just read it and understand it.
You are not permitted to break open a vessel or to take it apart or to make a hole in it.
Right, so you're not allowed to, so what does that mean? You're removing a cork from the bottle. You can remove the cork from a wine bottle with a corkscrew if necessary, even though it'll make a hole in the cork. So why are you allowed to do that? Because it says if it's necessary in order to have food on Shabbos or for Kiddush, you can break open the container, provided you do not thereby construct or form a vessel. So we already discussed this about containers of food that ideally they should be open before Shabbos. And this is a complicated law, but let's go on to the next one, which is very complicated, but next one is Mavir, making a fire on Shabbos. Okay, Asher.
The objective of this Av Malacha is to kindle a fire that produces prolonged or increases heat or light for the purpose of igniting, heating, lighting, cooking, baking, operating an engine or motor activities, etc. Activities prohibited within this Malacha include kindling a fire by striking a match or by lighting one fire from another, as well as increasing or prolonging the fire by raking the coals and igniting a fire or producing heat or light with a chemical substance.
Okay, let's just go back to the footnote here, because by the way, you said operating an engine or a motor, but what about if it's an electric engine? There's no fire there, an electrical car. So, right, there's no fire there, for sure not. So stuck in a traffic area.
Like currents?
I don't know.
Isn't that electricity?
Electricity is, well,
fire, no?
No, I mean, maybe they call fire, but it's not fire. There's no fire there.
Well, it's kind of like fire, no?
Well, let's see. He's going to discuss that. That's a whole debate. But let's see what he says. But first, here, we'll read that footnote in a second about electricity, but stuck in traffic, Erev Shabbos, and driving in an unsafe neighborhood. Being stuck in traffic on Erev Shabbos is a halachic problem which tests, perhaps like none other, Jews, Yirah Shamayim. Well, moreover, the complexity and nuance of each individual makes relating to this question in a meaningful manner beyond the scope of this work. Needless to say, the best way to deal with this issue is to arrive at your destination before Shabbos. Okay, obviously. Having said that, situations beyond our control do occur from time to time. Therefore, a traveler should have basic knowledge of the issues involved. There are 5 separate and distinct halachic issues. A, continuing to drive involves the malacha of mavir, that's fire. Turning the car off involves the malacha of mechaber, extinguishing. C, carrying valuables that you might want to remove from the car involves malacha of carrying. D, asking a non-Jew to help involves rabbinic prohibition of amir and nachri. 5, E, traveling a distance which exceeds 2,000 amos of the Tchum Shabbos. So, if you're in a situation which is considered dangerous, such as a high-crime neighborhood, or near a village where anti-Semitism is prevalent, or an extremely secluded area, you may continue to drive until you reach a safe place. Once you're undoubtedly out of harm's way, you must park. Also, as Shabbos approaches, it'd be wise to turn the lighting control to off and disable the alarm. All right, anyway, that's obviously very complicated. I've had that question a few times. But let's look at, since you asked the question, look at footnote 9, Asher, the halachic basis for the prohibited use of electricity. Let's just read that footnote there. Aryeh, we're on page 217. We're reading footnote 9.
The halachic status of electricity is subject to wide-ranging debate among the poskim. In the view of many early authorities, the use of electricity comes up with the halacha of kindling a fire.
So early poskim thought it was fire.
It is presumed to involve kindling a fire and generating a spark when the electrical circuit is made. It is also classified by some authorities under the halacha of cooking, on the presumption that the electrical current causes the wires to be heated. The novel view was advanced by the Chazon Ish that making the electrical contact within the circuit or breaking the contact in the electrical circuit are activities of the nature of building and demolishing. These approaches would render use of electricity on Shabbat malacha min Torah. However, the generally accepted view is
so those are different approaches. Is it fire? Is it extinguishing? Or is it bona or soser? If you take those approaches, it's all dioraisa. Go on.
However, the generally accepted view is that the use of electricity is a prohibition of rabbinic nature.
Especially like when you're talking about LED light, there's no electricity there. Go on.
Some authorities ascribe it as well as to the provision of forming or repairing utensil and of creating.
So tikkun mana or moed. Hello, Mordechai Naviva. Here we have the books of no cane. Wow, that's brave. Okay, go on.
Insofar as the flow of electricity makes the object usable, some characterize it as the derived from the term
right, that it's allowed, but we took upon ourselves to make it prohibited, which is so basically, according to that approach, there's actually no, I mean, they can't find why it's prohibited. Like we just accepted upon ourselves that it's prohibited. Okay, go on.
Well, opinions thus far does vary as to the halachic basis of the prohibition. There's unanimous agreement that it's forbidden to use electricity on Shabbat. Furthermore, the use of incandescent lights is a Torah violation since the filament is burned to create both light and heat. For analysis of the technical and halachic principles involved in analogies that are drawn to the sources.
I mean, the basic consensus says it's certainly not, electricity is certainly not a biblical prohibition, which is incredibly relevant. Let's say you're in a situation where you have a great need. So if you say it's rabbinic and then you use a shinoi, so now you're doing like rabbinic upon a rabbinic, and if it's a purpose of a mitzvah, then it's going to be allowed. If you have a shvus to shvus b'makom mitzvah, rabbinic in the place of a mitzvah. I mean, this becomes relevant because this issue is going to become more and more relevant and necessary as we live in a world of just complete automation. If it's almost impossible to go to a hotel that's not like a Shomer Shabbos hotel without some way setting off some electricity. There is everything is automated in the hotels. Everything is it's going to become more and more and more like the lights in the rooms. It's just there's going to be incredible difficulty more and more as everything, like it's hard to find a grill that's not a smart grill, or garbage cans are all going to be smart, and every refrigerators. So we're going to have to deal with these issues more and more as we and not everything can be, not everybody can say, okay, get the Shomer Shabbos ones. Not everybody can spend Shabbos every Shabbos in Williamsburg where they have, let's say, the Satmar hotels. So these issues are going to become more and more relevant. Okay. Hello there, Eitan and Aryeh, and anyway, let Max just do on page 216, law number 2. 216, law 2. Max?
Also included within this malacha, toldo, are adding oil to a lamp to keep the light burning, tilting or adjusting the lamp to facilitate the flow of oil to the flame, adding gasoline, wood, coal, or other fuel to a tank or furnace to prolong the fire, and heating metal to a glow.
Okay, so read one more. This is also relevant.
Chazal also prohibited reading alone or examining an article closely by lamplight, for fear that you may tilt the lamp for the oil to flow more freely in order to increase the light, and moving a lighted candle or lamp.
Most people don't read by candles or oil lamps anymore. Has anybody done that here recently? I mean, I don't think I've ever done that. But reading by electric light, so you can read by an electric light and perform other activities that require close concentration. There's a prohibition about reading by light that does not apply to electric lights, even if the intensity of light in the bulb can be increased. Okay, let's see another one. Oh, this is also relevant. We'll read the next one, Max. Number 4.
Among the activities prohibited.
No, we saved your seat right here, Noam. It's so exciting. Baruch Hashem, Noam. Okay, go on.
Among the activities prohibited under this malacha are smoking a cigar, or pipe, turning on or regulating the flame of a gas burner, starting the furnace, and opening a coal furnace, or a thermostatically controlled gas oven, and thereby igniting or intensifying the fire.
Right, well, so this is also relevant because how can you leave your house? Every time you leave your house today, our HVAC systems are so smart. They sense any change. Like if you open your door and go outside and let in cold air, it's going to notice it. If you and also it also notices when you move to a different part of the house. They just notice things. So this book. I mean, the book was updated, but these questions are all going to become more and more relevant. What?
And if you do not initiate that yourself, I mean, let's say you just get up and move out of the room and the system.
Well, the system senses you, so you kind of did that. So I'm not saying that that's prohibited, but I'm just saying that it's going to be a question that the poskim are going to have to figure out, because you clearly can't spend the whole room just sitting there in your closet tied up. That's not going to work. Anyway, look at footnote 4, dropping the garbage to an incinerator. So they say you can't do it if it's going to be burned that day. Having a non-Jew light the furnace. We don't light furnaces anymore, except I guess once in a while, sometimes we've had to do this. Like if the heat goes out, you can definitely have a non-Jew come and turn on your heat if it's a cold day, because otherwise you can get very sick. Activating, let's see, footnote 6. Activating the thermostat that controls the operation of the furnace. Anybody want to do that? Read that one? Itai, you want to read that for us?
Yeah.
You know how to read, Itai? Okay, good.
In a heating system where a thermostat automatically controls the operation of the furnace, you may not raise the temperature setting on Shabbat when the furnace is not in operation, as it is bound to start the fire in the furnace. You shall refrain from raising the temperature setting even when the furnace is in full operation. However, you may open a door or window in the room where the thermostat is located, even though it will lower the temperature in the room and activate the thermostat.
So they basically allow that because it's indirect. It's more indirect. So you're not doing it directly. But still, I mean, it's kind of direct. But they have no choice. They have no choice. When you have no choice, you have no choice. Right? It's kind of like what they're saying. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the questions like we have with refrigerators today. Some people like pull out the plug of their refrigerators because every time you open the refrigerators, they're so sensitive. They immediately sense like the change in temperature, immediate. Like it used to be the refrigerators when they had some of the classic chuvos about refrigerators. The refrigerators were not as sophisticated as they are today. Like if you open the refrigerator for more than 10 seconds, it senses everything. It'll adjust the temperature. Starts beeping. Right, you have a Shabbas mode on the refrigerators. You do have the Shabbas mode, and you have to turn that on where the Shabbos mode recognizes the temperature, doesn't recognize the temperature, and it won't start beeping, and it shuts the lights. So you do have to, if you have any refrigerator, you have to make sure it has a Shabbos mode. If you have a new refrigerator, anybody buy a new refrigerator here recently? You have to make sure it has a Shabbos mode. We have one on ours. Nobody has a new refrigerator? Itai, do you turn on the Shabbos mode on Shabbos? Baruch Hashem. Now I can come by your home. That would be my honor if you ever invited me. Baruch Hashem. All right, let us go to the Rashi on the